Welcome to the Port Charles Update with your hosts, Mish and Mel.
Hello.
Hello. Before we get into it, do you want to make the announcement?
Yes, I have a confession. A theme of the week. So next Friday night, I will not be recording with Melanie, which means that we won't have a podcast on Saturday. That was such a long way to say it. I have an event on Saturday and I have to be up early, so I won't have time to edit. Guys, I'm
So
so
for
sorry.
Mish has a life. So
It's
sad, but also so
oh my, it was
exciting.
one time. No kidding. So yeah, so we want to let you guys know this. And we're gonna talk about this week. That's what we're
Yeah,
gonna do. Yeah.
let's do it.
Yes. So I want to start by something because, like, it feels that recently. Is that what we do on this podcast? Is talking about something? Okay. Uh, so we have thoughts and opinions about things lately, about them not feeling amazing, and it's
Yeah,
just strange after all of the I don't even know what you want to call it, but then I find that there's certain things that you're like, okay, you're getting this right. Like the fact that Robert, like they're self-correcting that, right? Robert had
yes.
a lot to say about his previous behavior.
Oh,
And for
yes,
the
he
first
did.
time we're hearing it won't happen again. And he was sorry. And he's telling Diane about Holly. Like, I was just like, okay, a lot of rewriting, a lot of shifting, but this I found they got right. But honestly, what is the matter with Holly? Like for real. I was like, are you for like she just walks in there like, oh, you've been waiting all your life for me. He's like, yeah, you're always late. I spend the majority of my time waiting for you. And she's like flirting and she knows he's with Diane. And she all this is me. I'm like, so like you know you have no intention of staying. Like, what exactly are you trying to do? Basically, you're like, I need to run to Robert and make sure that when I'm here, he's all about me. And then I leave him. And I want to make sure he's available for this.
Exactly. She just wants his admiration. Like, I think it's that whole thing of she lives the lifestyle that she does, and she's on the other side of the law. And then she has this person in Port Charles who's like on the up and up, who contributes to good, and it like does something, I think, for her ego. But yeah, at the end of the day, she just like prances off and goes off to the next criming.
I just thought it was so strange that like I can understand Mac's anger,
Yes.
but like can you explain Felicia to me? Because last week
Cannot.
she was having a heart to heart with Elizabeth, kind of making these parallels between Lucky and Elizabeth and her and Frisco and just the
Hmm.
history. And the thing is, Frisco's not a person she's with right now, right? It was a person she had to kind of move on from. It was somebody that had a big hold over her. So they have this entire conversation. And then she turns around and is like, oh, Holly and Robert have so much history. And she knows about Diane, and he's happy with
Yes.
Diane. So it shouldn't matter. It's like, so their history entitles Holly to just disrespect whatever is happening. I mean, mind you, Robert held his own, but it was so weird having Felicia nudge Holly in that direction. She's like, oh, they're both grown adults. I just thought it was so strange.
I thought it was strange too, and I didn't like it. So I tried to think about it um from a different perspective. Like she knows if Holly is told to stay away from Robert, maybe she thinks she'll try harder. And if she just gives her the leeway to go talk to him, like kind of playing a little bit of devil's advocate, but letting them make their own decision as opposed to coming in between both of them.
Okay, that makes sense and sounds like Felicia, but it didn't come off that way when her and
I
Max were
know.
talking, right? Because in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, Holly might be your friend, but like Robert's your family. Like Max is looking
Exactly.
out for Robert, and I can understand why he like stood his ground and set up boundaries. But you're right, they weren't his to set, and Robert didn't feel that they were his to set either. And Matt can't control what they did. Okay, fine, fine, I'm over it now.
Love it. We talked it through. Next.
Okay, so something I thought that happened last week, but it turns out it happened earlier this week,
Yes.
was everything with Violet. Violet got violent.
She did, but I love that they're putting the spotlight on her to see how this kind of work. They're giving her like a real role. She is struggling. Yes, she has so many people that love her. She has all the support in the world. And I loved how Gio and her bonded over a little bit of tragedy, but she has like a big brother now too. Not only does she have like a grandma and like a great aunt and uncle in Brooklyn and Chase, but she's got Geo on her side.
But literally, though, that's like my main takeaway from this. They highlighted Geo and Violet, literally placed them as a big brother, the whole entire dynamic. You're trying to discipline one child, being like, don't do that. And then you have the older sibling or a sibling being like, oh my gosh, yeah, I would have done the same. Like the whole thing, like, that's what I took from it was, yeah, he is your big brother because at the end of the day, they have that parental role. And like we talked about, we believe Geo to be Brooklyn's.
Right. Yeah.
So, okay.
Mhm.
Okay. This is one of those things where you didn't know how right you were when you were
No,
saying
I
just
love
like a
it.
big brother. It was so cute. She just had this big brother figure. She had this like grandma figure in Lois. Like it was
It was
amazing. And this
amazing,
mom,
guys.
I'm like, what?
It's
I'm
Friday,
like,
y'all. It's
I was
Friday.
like, why are you not saying this with like more punch? This is what I was wondering. And I'm like, I get it now because you didn't know. But so
I
so
can't always be like, right.
I can be right or accidentally right. I stumble.
Exactly.
I
Thank
stumble
you.
into right. I'm not the kind of person who knows it. I just stumble into it. But so there were so many things that were funny. So Diane came in hot, ready to
Yes.
go to bat for what a kid in elementary school. But it's just hilarious that Violet has a lawyer, and like the moment Tracy left to call Diane, I'm like, you're kidding, right? Like you're actually going to send a lawyer to the school. And so for me, the big takeaways was just that she is so well surrounded, and
Yes.
it makes me feel like she will be a very powerful adult.
Yes, very significant. She's officially a quartermain. She's lawyered up. She's got a support system.
Yeah.
She is just ready to rock in future generations of GH.
Like I do think she's definitely a quartermain, but it's just all the different powerhouses, right? The
Hmm.
Tracy influence, Brooklyn, Lois, Diane having her back. Like she has a community.
Yes.
So I think she has very strong ties, and there is a part of me that is very excited for the kind of role that she could have in the future. Um, there was one more thing about all the Violet scenes that I wanted to ask you this.
Hmm.
When Tracy was supporting her, because I forgot it wasn't Charlotte, right? Because Charlotte always speaks French.
Yes.
But then Tracy spoke French, taught her a French sentence, a phrase to Violet.
Yes.
And I was like, do you think that French was for us?
Oh, 1000%. Are you kidding me?
Okay, so Tracy was talking to me through my TV.
Hard yes.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that I got that right because I know I did not stumble into that. Okay, so these scenes had me. I mean, we'll talk about it, but I feel that you're feeling more strongly than I am about this character now. Okay, so Lucas walks into Bobby's.
Yes.
Um, Willow and Wiley walk into Bobby's. Maxie and Michael walk into Bobby's. There was a lot of walking into Bobby's. So, it's awkward. Wiley's like, who's this?
Yes.
Ouch. I raised you. Talk about hashtag ungrateful, Wiley. You were not always raised rich. Okay. Because weren't they collecting stuff for a boat ride?
Yes, they were.
Yeah. So anyway, so you have that whole scene. But what did you think about the fact that Michael and Maxie walked in at the same time?
Well, the minute they did, I thought about you because a long time ago, we have this talk about them potentially being together. They've had a few more scenes than usual, and it's definitely standing
Yeah.
out. And it's like, well, why did they walk in together? Did they meet in a parking lot? Were they at the Quartermains together? Did they decide to ride together? Like, I needed a little bit more background on that.
It's like I feel like I'm so hyper aware of Michael and Maxie
Yes.
that like I had to rewind because I thought his hand was on her shoulder, but it wasn't.
Okay. Okay.
So guys, I just
Oof.
don't worry about it. What I thought happened didn't. So it's
But the
exactly
fact
how
that
you saw it.
you fact checked that in itself is a
Oh
big
yeah.
deal.
Doing my job. So yeah, I fact checked that. But I loved Maxie's reaction. Like I love her. And the way that she walked in all upset about like Lucas not telling her anything or that he was there. And just the awkwardness that went down, right? Like Lucas trying to get out of there,
Yes.
then Maxie making an excuse. to then chase after him. And what I found the weirdest of all, like, what on earth are you two doing? So Willow and Michael acknowledge that was awkward, sit at a
Yep.
table, and
Yeah.
Willow goes, "Hey, at what point do you think you're going to tell Wiley?" I'm thinking, yeah, like when he's old enough and mature enough to understand this. And she's like, "I'll be there whenever you're ready." And then Michael's like, "I'm ready to tell Wiley now." I'm like, so they're just ready to tell Wiley. What on earth? They turn around, they're like, "Wiley, Lucas raised you before we got to have you." What? What? And he was mad at Nina for telling him his real mom was Nell?
It just reminded me, like, I had a life before this life. I was married, divorced. I'm with somebody now, have two kids. So, welcome to my life, audience. And when my daughter was two, when Olivia was two, I was like, so mommy was married and then divorced. And we'll continue this conversation later. It's you say stuff when they're young because you
What?
don't want to talk about it.
So you're just so if later on it comes up, you're like, we already had this talk. I'm sorry, you were two, and we had this conversation.
We've
So
talked about it since, but that's what it reminded me of. It's like, have this conversation and walk away and deal with it 3 years from now, or 6 years from now, or 7 years from now. Like, it's just,
but
they're laying the groundwork.
it was so ridiculous because
It
Wiley is like,
was.
"Okay, can we go on a boat now?" Like he doesn't fully understand what you're saying. And that's probably why you should talk to him when he can understand.
Exactly.
Like,
I
what
totally
does it
agree.
matter? Like, you're gonna have Lucas around and it's about Lucas being comfortable. And then he'll just call him Uncle Lucas, and it is what it is. It was so bizarre to me.
Yes, absolutely bizarre. I don't understand why that scene happened, but like, it's so interesting to see the who Lucas is attached to because he's been gone for so long, you kind of forget exactly that. Like, oh, this is my great uncle. This is blah blah blah. Like we're getting like this whole backstory reminder of who he's connected to. And I kind of giggled because some of it I Googled. I'm like, wait, who's what? Why? Why are they talking to each other this way?
Yeah, it is really funny. Like I mean, look, on the one hand, it makes me feel happy that they're committed to using him if they're going out of their way to like introduce him to this level and giving him the screen time and just laying the foundation for all of his connections. And this was another thing that
Yes.
I felt that they got right. So when Robert kind of conceded on his behavior and promised all of us viewers he's turned over a new leaf when it comes to Diane, that made me happy. But about Lucas, I kind of liked it, the rationale, right? All of that makes sense. There's a lot of things on the show that lately have not felt like they made sense, but everything about how Lucas explained his absence made complete sense. Like the fact that it fits Lucas's character, for instance, that he wouldn't want things to be messy, and he lost a
Yes.
child, right? Like
Yes.
he lost a child, and he knew like the idea of just being there and seeing Wiley, right? Like it's his sister's grandkid.
Right?
So when he was like talking to Carly and all those scenes, I felt like it made a lot of sense, and it would make sense that he's like ready to come back. But also just like you pointed out, like the connections, like the fact that like Felicia showed up, when at the Metro Court when she saw Lucas, because Lucas
Yes.
kind of grew up with Felicia, and Carly, remember, only comes in as an adult later on,
Exactly.
right? So this was kind of interesting to me because even though I thought it was beautiful, like the Bobby episodes when she passed. And of
Hmm.
course, we knew like Felicia was Bobby's best friend and Carly was her daughter, and these were like two important characters and all that. And but I felt like it made more sense, like with Bobby's passing, joining them together, like the Lucas connection, like all of it. I found like it hit another layer when I saw Lucas come back and Felicia with him. Like it really did remind me of how deep those connections were.
Oh, I totally agree. And because exactly that, you forget sometimes, and the characters don't
Mhm.
often have scenes together, but just like Felicia looking out for Carly and her excitement towards Lucas and just being involved in that circle a little bit more was very nice.
Yeah. So that's the thing. I was like, what is going on? Like when Felicia was staring at that woman
Hmm.
and mentions the dog, because all I was like, oh my gosh, there's a dog, like at the restaurant. And then when she kept talking and brought up that the woman was a PI, I was actually hopeful that that was set up to be like, Felicia's gonna go back to being a PI. Like I'm still
Me
waiting for
too.
the for the plot twist. of her wanting to be a hospital advocate. Like, I'm just
Oh
thinking
my
it's
gosh.
like they're playing the long game. And at some
They
point,
are. Oof.
I'll understand why Felicia felt the need to change careers. Like, I don't get it. Like, it's still not, like, I'm not fulfilled with her career change.
No, neither am
Yeah,
I.
I feel deeply unfulfilled. So she recognizes the PI, and then the PI is like all gross, like, ooh, Carly and that patch. And I'm like, she's like, it's her brother. Like, what? But exactly that, that strong family tie
Hmm.
and giving Carly a heads up.
Yes. Okay, but when that Carly took out that mirror and did that extra check, and her dress was stunning. What was she really expecting to happen in that room?
No, she runs a hotel. She was just doing an inspection. She was
Right, right,
there.
right. VIP, just
Yeah.
making sure the room was clean. He had like fresh pillows or towels or whatever's fresh in a hotel.
Exactly. She was there to comp a meal, have a conversation. No, like that whole thing was,
Damn.
yeah. Like, I mean, they have chemistry. It is what it is.
Yes.
But I loved just the whole thing. Like how the knock on the door. Like what is the matter with that woman? Like I mean, it was a good point. Like, let me jiggle it. But the fact that like he made her immediately, like Carly's
Yes.
like, she was a PR. It's like, I know, like obviously. And so, but the thing is, it's like now he's disappointed, right? Because Carly's basically saying, I need to be a little bit more careful. And
For
so,
now, for like the weekend.
well, that's the thing. He wants Carly, and the
Mm,
obstacle right now is another criminal charge. Keeping
yep.
that in mind, right? There's a
Yes.
like, as long as this whole Kate's murder thing is happening, like she has to play a role, and he gets that.
Yes.
Speaking of roles and Brennan, he went around town just debriefing, right? He went to go see Holly, tried to debrief with her. Anna came in with Jason, JJ, Anna and JJ. They're back home. Okay.
Ew.
Um
Major downgrade, Jason.
what did you think of the Brennan, Anna, Jason debrief?
It just felt like high school. Like Brennan already knew what happened. He knew the criminal got away, but he's like, I want the deets and I still want to hire him, but I know you love him now, so convince him to work for me.
He was having so much fun to me.
Yes.
Okay, so many things. Like Anna did not disappoint. She bananaed all over that. So
She did.
first off, she's like, oh, your drone strike almost obliterated me and my team. I'm like, you had no team.
You
What
don't
damn
you
team are you
what
talking
do
about?
you
You packed a knife and told Felicia, I got this. Me in Somalia, I got this. Like you literally went into a war zone by yourself and you were gonna take down a head of a cartel by yourself.
with expired pills.
Expired medication. And and the only reason Jason was there is because Carly made him. And then he was on an
Yep.
airplane. And then you're gonna call Lucky and Holly your team?
I cannot.
And the whole debrief was pretty much an interview with Jason.
Oh
And it's
yeah.
just so embarrassing, like she's the spy. You must have debriefed like 1,000 times. And I just want to point out, like, this was a self-appointed mission. Like, can we all just like agree on that? Because she walks in and she's like, I'm here, but like I don't owe you anything. And he's like, yeah, you do. Like, I got you in, I got you out. She's like, I don't work for the WSB. No, you don't, but you still think you're a spy. You're the commissioner. You're the commissioner. And and you just decided, like, this is what I can't understand. She really can't see past herself, right? She doesn't see how or in
Yes.
what way, she could owe him something, right? Or that he could have done her a favor. She's like, I don't work for the WSB. I don't work for you. I am the commissioner. It's like, correct. You're the
Hmm.
commissioner. Okay. An FBI agent was killed on your turf. And after using Lulu's coma didn't get you Valentine's location, you suddenly recalled that you had a thing with Luke and then ditched your job to go hunt down Lucky to save Lulu. Like, if that's not impulsive, like, I don't know what is.
Oh my God. I know. You have it like you hit the nail on the head with her. Like it was so interesting to watch. She's just so true to her character and it's so
But it's
entertaining.
so good. The consistency is like pretty. I love it.
Yes.
But even when they were debriefing, she's like, okay, so we got there and there was about like 20 guards, and like Jason kept correcting her, 21. And he would, and then like Brennan was impressed with the fact that like he beat Sidwell at cards. He's like, but you don't play cards. It's like, yeah, she
I
told me
love
to.
that part.
So he loved that. He loved that he could like take direction. He goes with the
Yes.
flow. He improvises.
Yes.
And it's good to know that Jason doesn't suck at a card game, that he actually lost to save Lucky. That never occurred
Right?
to me. It never occurred to me when he walked up to her and said sorry. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. So learned that with the whole like debrief. And then at the end, like as usual, like Anna needs to like bawl her eyes out at every
Of
board
course.
meeting. And then she's just like, you cannot go after Jason. The WSB uses you out, spits you out. I'm like, yeah, most jobs do that.
Most jobs honestly suck the life out of
Why are
you.
you so
So yeah.
adamant about this one? And then what does she do? She runs immediately to Jason.
I cannot.
I was so like the amount of secondhand embarrassment I had watching that was like off the charts. I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed. Like
It was again, it was a high school moment.
she's like, can we talk about the kiss? And Jason was like, he basically let her have her moment. Like, this is where
Yep.
it's confusing for me because they do this, right? They'll take two people that maybe you're like, they're not at all intertwined, and then they're like combative, and then they're together. But the difference between, let's say, Sam and Dante is like fighting at the beginning and constantly at each other, or like Chase and Brooklyn, when they met each other, they were really, really combative and it blossomed into a romance. See,
Mm-hmm.
that is never how I saw the Anna Jason dynamic, because whenever they were like, there was friction, it was mostly Jason calling her on her crap, right?
Yes.
It wasn't a fabricated tension, it was mostly pointing out her failings. and and it made me feel so like really
Yes.
vindicated every time they talked, because you're like, damn, yes, she needs to have some of these truth bombs. So it's like, I don't know what to make of it, because he knows her well enough, right? He's like, you want to talk about it? She's like, I don't want to, but like we should. He's like, we don't have to, but you want to anyway, so just have at it. And then she's like tearing, and she talks about it, right? She basically says the kiss out loud. He lets her do that thing where she's like, it can never happen again. He's like, cool, be as intense as you want to be. And then when she's done talking, he goes, anything else? I was like, oh my gosh, this is so awkward. So awkward. And then when they were done their conversation, I think he said something like they were parting ways. And he said, take care of yourself. But
He
I
did.
voiced it over in my home. And I said this, say hi to Robin for me.
Amazing.
Oh, and so it's just strange because, okay, so Anna, remember this. She not only warns Brennan away from Jason, but she keeps warning Brennan away from Carly. Like she
Right?
thinks she's saving Carly.
I know.
And well, it's funny because Felicia also gave her advice about Brennan.
But it's different. Like Anna's trying to,
Oh, Anna's
like how you call
different.
the cool cop, like
Yeah.
so she's trying to just be like, well, Carly's my new bestie because like I kissed Jason, but I also think he's really hot, but he also was there for my daughter. So I'm like in this circle, guys, so I can like look out for you in my Anna way.
But she is trying so hard to be in that circle. Like when she pulled Carly in today, there was not 1 ounce of information that she presented that Carly didn't already know.
I know.
And that's what was fascinating. You're like, this woman thinks that she's whole. Like, look at the tension. Look how stressed she is, right? She's
Yes.
like, oh my gosh, like I threatened to take Sunny down all the time. I could possibly take Sunny down all the time. Oh no, I'm gonna poo all over this now. So now let me overthink it. Let me overthink about all the players involved. Let me think about Carly now. I don't know why. I don't like the woman, but I'm gonna think about her. I'm gonna think about her hard. And then she's like, I'm gonna call her in. I'm gonna call her in. And then I'm gonna show her this file. I'm gonna show her a picture of herself with Brennan from the other night. And it's like, yeah, Carly's like, I was there. And thank you. I love that. I love the fact, because if you contrast how Carly handled the images versus Martin, who keeps thinking he's presenting a win to Alexis. It was
Yes.
hilarious, right? Because he keeps coming to her, and I think Alexis had so many funny lines when it came to Martin, like so unimpressed. He's like, I have pictures. She's like, so she owns the hotel.
Right?
I have the receipt of the dinner. She's like, it proves that he ordered 2 dinners. Like, that's it. And I love that Carly did that just to show how ridiculous it was. But it was stunning to see, like, all Anna had to do was like her job. Oh, then she protects Carly. She'll score points with Jason, who she said they
Yep.
cannot kiss again. But it doesn't mean I can't
Never,
hover
ever,
near your face,
ever.
lips, you know, like
Oh my God. And the fact that he got up, it really threw me off that he stood up from his desk as opposed to like having her sit down. Like he could be a gentleman and like stand up and sit back down in his chair, but he stood up and closed the proximity. And that's where I was not looking at my screen for a little bit, like through squinted eyes, because I didn't want something else to happen.
yeah, me neither. But Jason's being so like stone cold right there, so it's hard
Mm,
to tell. I mean, thinking about it that way, it's possible that she is doing all of this stuff ultimately to score points with Jason. But at the same time, she seems to believe that she knows best, right? Like we
yes.
talked about how the advice coming from Anna and Felicia are different. And it's Felicia, she's coming at it with like a backstory and history and people she loved being negatively impacted by Brennan. And when it comes to Anna, like it's weird warning Carly about a dangerous man. Like, hi,
I know.
married to Sonny a million times. You're gonna start telling this woman now that a man is dangerous. Don't you think you're a little late for that? And I loved Carly's answer when she said something like, I hope you're not offended that I wouldn't be taking like dating advice from you. And I thought that was hilarious. So it's like from Anna's perspective, it's like she's trying to lean on, she's trying to put herself in a position of like being an expert, right? The WSB is
Yes.
supposed to be her world. And it turns out it's not that hard for anybody to like push inside and like succeed, right? So it's like she has her WSB bubble and look at Carly poking her way in
Yes.
easily
Yes.
managing her environment. But Anna can't succeed in going into Carly's world.
No, it takes a lot.
It's really, really interesting. And then when she called her on loyalty, and I don't know if we talked about it, but I know like I thought about it, I wrote it down. But it's just I was thinking about that, like how a lot of people always point to Carly in terms of like, oh my gosh, it's ridiculous how they'll do anything for her. Even Sam, you know, like about Jason and all that. But that's the thing, like loyalty breeds loyalty. And so while
Yes.
Carly has made some bad decisions, as much as these people are there for her and everybody looks around and acts like, oh, like what did she do? Well, she was equally loyal. She put herself in some really terrible situations to be equally
Yes.
loyal. So like when Anna is sitting back, and I think sometimes she is taken aback by the loyalty Jason has for Carly, and probably Sunny too, but it's because it goes both ways. And I think that people kind of neglect that fact. And I think it just goes to show, like Anna said, oh, you're being loyal to the wrong people. That's the point. Like, I think is that people are messy and they're her people and they're her family. So in your eyes,
Yes.
you're deciding you're being loyal to the wrong people, but it's like just because you don't have those loyalties, right? It doesn't mean that that's wrong. Like I know it looks wrong on the outside, but they're her people.
Mm.
And it's like that question of like loyalty to the right people. The point is, as long as you're loyal to your family, that's what matters. And you see that question come up with Dante this week,
Yes.
right? So I just thought like the way that that was brought was kind of interesting.
Hmm.
And like also on that topic of like loyalty and what you would do for someone, it's like I found the conversation between Diane and Jason compelling. So once they moved off of the whole Sunny confession part, I
Yes.
found, Diane taking the time to focus on Jason. So Diane breaks her, confidentiality or whatever, and is asking Jason to get Sunny to confess. Again, all of this is already in motion. We know this at this point. But then Jason is thinking about how this negatively impacts Carly.
Yes.
And Carly is a grown woman and she's able to take accountability, even though it's like it does feel like an ex-wife for another ex-wife because he's saying I would never let hurt the mother of my child, but you are picking one over the other, right? Like
Yes,
you
you are.
are. And this whole idea that like I wouldn't have asked you if I didn't know. Like, what do you mean you didn't know that it was somehow like it was never a good idea? You know what I mean? Like it was a
Yes.
risk. The fact that you're like, oh, I didn't think this risk would be risky. What? So then that breeds a whole different conversation, right? Because now you're saying because she's her loyalty is to Alexis. And so now they're talking about like he's getting angry, right? And I loved angry Jason. I loved when he's like,
Of
I
course
could have
you
taken
did.
out, yeah, I could have taken out Kate. So now he's saying things like it wouldn't have mattered. So it sucks sometimes knowing things, right? Like we know, for
Yeah,
instance, that like Sam is leaving the show and she might be killed off the show. So now I'm looking at this conversation through that lens
exactly.
and all the things that like all the pieces that they're setting up, right? So now Diane is confronting him about his importance and his value. And I really feel like when I was looking at that, this is going to be maybe the most epic thing for the Jason Morgan character, because the more I was watching, the more I realized like his rationale is not going to work anymore, right? Because his rationale
Exactly.
is my kids have their mothers, my kids have stability. I've never been the stable guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um and we know that on some level he, Carly and Michael were his like first family. And we
Mm-hmm.
know that there's a history, sure, but they are his own kids.
Exactly.
Um and we are watching the father struggle, Jason and Lucky in very different ways. And like I don't think Jason necessarily feels like Lucky, who's very, overt with the fact that he feels that he's failed as a
Yes.
dad with his absences. I don't know if Jason feels the same, right? He seems pretty comfortable being who he is in a way, but I question that now, like the fact that he says it doesn't matter if I'm around my kids, but the thing is, one kid might only have you.
Exactly.
And his eyes watered when she was like, because remember, like I don't know if it's before or after. I think it's after. Jason ends up giving a whole speech to Lucky.
Exactly. It was before.
Before, that's even more insane. And she was
Exactly.
saying, imagine telling like your kids hearing you talk like this. And I realized ever since he became Jason Morgan, he's never truly valued his life. Like we've talked about him in the sense that like he takes risks. Everybody knows that like he's loyal to Sonny and Carly, but
Mm-hmm.
we haven't really zoomed in on like, does Jason Morgan care about himself?
Yeah.
It looks like it on some level, right? Like Jason does what he wants to do, and Jason's kind, and he saves people, and he shows up at the right time. But he shows up for other people. He's a hero in everybody else's life, but he has never really had his own life.
Yes,
Not ever,
absolutely.
not at all since he became like Jason Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
And he cannot. And I don't think Carly would support that. She would not support his continued loyalty to his detriment. That's been their biggest fight since he's returned,
Yes,
because she's
exactly.
in a place where it's like she's ready to take responsibility for her choices, right? Like she was ready to go to jail and all that stuff. Like even now she's like, I'll take my chances. Like she understands that a lot of her life choices are catching up to her. And even if she didn't know, she always has Joss there to remind her.
Oh yeah, big time.
So I think this is going to be really interesting of like a different version of Jason, where all of the rules he's bases, the second half of his life on are just not going to make sense anymore. They're not going to fit.
I love that Diane is the one that is making him think of these things,
Hmm.
because even when he asked about Carly, she's like, Carly is a grown woman. It's like all these people made these choices because they know what the consequences are. It's kind of
Yeah.
reminding him, like, you're older though. You're not kids anymore. Like, you need to figure this out. And I think that Diane is the only person that could say those things and truly get through to him.
Maybe it's because with Jason and Carly, he feels like he knows her. He knows that in that relationship, he'll always be
Hmm.
successful. And that's not a guarantee with his kids.
It's very true.
And also Carly is not the same. She's not a girl. She's not the girl he first
No.
met, and he's missed a lot of gaps of her life, and she's been fine standing on her own 2 feet, and she doesn't need him in that way. She needs him around. She needs him to live, she needs
Yes,
him to be happy, but she does not need him, nor does she need Sonny in the same way anymore.
exactly.
So, and I think Diane is the only one that could have had that conversation with him.
I loved it. It was so profound and early start of that scene.
Oh, but Lucky, oh my gosh.
Okay,
Like, okay,
well,
so he goes to Bobby's and does that.
but the question for you is, how did you feel about Angry Lucky?
So that's the thing though. It's I don't know. Okay, this is exactly how I saw it. It was
Okay.
so funny. The past and future generations kind of collided for me. Okay. So it
Yes.
starts with the past, Elizabeth going, oh my gosh, Lucky's hurt. What will he do? And part of me is like, oh my gosh, the darkness, because that's what it was, right? The bad boy,
Yeah.
the brooding, the darkness. You're like, oh no. And so then he goes, you're like, oh my God, what is he doing? Like he's trashing the place and you're in the drama, you're in the darkness. And then you snap out of it because the younger generation walks in. They have no ties to your history. And she's
Yes.
seeing it from a whole nother lens. She's like, seriously, what are you doing? Like you're throwing things. Like, what's the matter with you? Go to therapy. Like,
Right?
get
Such a
your
different
life together.
generation.
So it was so funny for me because there was no way to appreciate any of that, right? Like there wasn't. The bubble was burst. It was so
Yeah,
funny to me because
true.
I felt like he was caught in the middle of two generations that way. It's like what used to be sexy and brooding, and now it's like, what are you doing? Like you're
You
so
got issues,
self-destructive.
man.
Yeah, because all those issues used to be like, oh my gosh, the
They're
complexities. Oh,
sexy.
he's suffering, and now everyone's like, yeah, like I don't know. It's about time. Like, are you not gonna face up to some stuff? It was because like at first when Joss walked in, I was like, oh no, like she shouldn't have to deal with this. But then when she started talking, I'm like, Joss is the right one
She's
to,
laid it down hard.
to deal with this. But then she comes back around later, recognizing that like he's been away for so long and this was the safest place and he had a lot inside. Again, not right, but it was funny how they went about that. Like I thought it was such a like it really messed with me, to be honest. Like
Really mess with the sexiness of the scene. Got
yeah,
it.
because you start from like historically, right? You know Lucky. You grew up watching Lucky and Elizabeth. So there's all these like
Yes.
mythical elements to the kind of luckiness. And then Joss comes in and she's like, no, I don't think so. If this is the kind of cousin and family member you're gonna be, I don't want this in my life. So you're like, what? Healthy boundaries? What am I supposed to do with this?
Exactly.
What am I supposed to do with this?
I can't support this man now.
Now, so she ruined it. She totally ruined it for me. That's what this generation
Oh,
does, right? They
God.
just
Stop.
go out with their healthy ideas. So then he goes crying to Jason. Oh, money, passport, need to get out of here. And Jason's like, what? And so they have their little heart to heart. Jason is literally taking his time to like talk him down. And
Yes.
clearly, okay, you cannot mistake that Jason is trying to tell him to stay and that his family deserves a goodbye. And then we had
Yeah.
enough of Lucky's crap. He throws the money at him here. And then Lucky goes, well, what do you think I should do? And I'm like, he literally has been telling you what to do.
Thank you.
Literally. And then he runs off to the chapel. And I'm like, you couldn't have gone there first? Just saying.
Right?
You know, you were out the hospital. Perhaps you didn't need to leave the hospital to have a tantrum and you could have just went in there because you can't lift the pews. They're bolted
Exactly.
normally
They're
to the
bolted.
floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, he would have tired himself out there and there would have been no damage.
I just picture like a toddler tantrum and then him laying on the floor and Laura walking in.
Yeah, but I was so happy to see Laura and I like that she, talked to him and kind of made him realize like, dude, you're kind of zooming in this story and distorting it all. She's like, I was here before you. Like
Right?
you're not new. You've
This
always
is not
had this
about you.
yeah, you've always had an adventurous spirit. You're a human person in this world. I never expected you to stay with me. I knew you would leave eventually. That's life. You're living it.
I love that they showed the flashback of the diner that
Triple
blew
L,
up.
yeah. Yeah.
I love
But
that.
it's funny how they showed a flashback bomb, but then there was a real bomb threat and they cleared the building.
A real fake bomb
Oh,
threat.
yeah. Of
Yes.
all the employees, they got Anna and Chase out of there.
The two
That was
employees that
it.
were working that day.
I loved it. They're like, there's a bomb. There's only them two. And then outside, there's only them two. I'm like, you did good. You created drama on a budget. Who could ask
Right?
for anything more than that? So before we get that whole bomb thing, there's a lot going on with the Alexis case. She's getting a lot of visits in prison. And frankly, she looks annoyed. I feel like she was like, I thought prison
I
would
was
be some me
resting.
time. And and
Some
now
self-care.
everyone's coming to see her. And so even Sam. So at this point, when Jason was talking to Diane, he's like, well, he mentioned Sam and the gun. We were all
Yes.
scared because we thought Sam diving would be like how she goes.
Yes.
FBI can't find the gun. Nobody can find the gun. Sam has this visit. Also reminds Alexis that they should also worry about Molly. That was so funny. She's like, "You have to take care of your sisters," and then she's like, "And Molly too, right?" She's like, "Yeah, sure, the other one." Like, it's just,
I know, it's so bad.
I just thought it was so funny. And then all of the Martin visits, hilarious.
I was thinking about you because Martin was like dipping in and out of his accent.
So annoyed. I have to do a like. I literally like I recorded him. And I found an
Yes.
old clip on YouTube where he has his regular before accent. And I have yet to make a video where I'm going to be like, accent, no accent, accent, no accent. Like, this drives me nuts. Every time I hear him talk, I'm like, why isn't anyone talking about this?
I know, right? Well, we are. That's the
Not
important
even
thing.
one comment. Like literally, you're having a whole accent storyline with Lois, and nobody notices that he's not Southern anymore. Like, who's this guy?
I know.
And
Like,
he
did he
shaved his beard
clone
too.
Martin? Mm-mm. Is
How
he the
has
evil
nobody
twin?
exactly? How has no one questioned that? You don't sound like him. You don't have facial hair. You have some kind of a haircut. You cannot possibly be Martin.
Is it Cyrus in disguise?
That would make sense. That would be the only thing that would make sense. But he comes to her and he tells her something like, Carly is lying about her alibi. And then she says my favorite line. Says something to him like, and you shaved your beard. And then she's like, I thought we were playing State the Obvious. I thought
I
that was,
loved it. Same in mind. I have a noted for fave line.
oh my gosh, it's so good. Okay. So the whole thing with Martin, he makes some leeway with her, right?
Yes.
About, the case and, needing to point the finger, let's say like at Sonny, whatever, basically digging at their alibi.
Yes.
But this is what caught me off guard. She
Okay.
randomly
Tell
holds
me.
him back and goes, "Oh, and if you feel like pointing the finger at Carly and saying Sonny was covering for her, do it."
Yeah, that threw me off. I actually had to rewind it and put the captions on because I wasn't sure that's what she said.
I was like, what is going on? Because at the same time, you have Carly being like, fine, you want to do this for Alexis, do it. I'll take my chances. So literally him doing this to save Alexis
But she
is
even
putting her in
asked
trouble.
him. She asked, like, Carly asked Sonny, what are you doing to protect Alexis? She was advocating for Alexis
Yeah.
this whole time. So, yeah, it was really annoying.
And not only that, Alexis comes across information from Martin. He basically is telling her that whatever he handed over Anna, so she may not know about the gun, right?
Yes.
Nobody can, but she did hear from her lawyer that she could be out later that day.
Yes.
And I didn't know what to make of this. So Sonny has decided to confess, and it has a lot to do with Kristina. Kristina visits Alexis. She says she's not going to do anything. Clearly, her whole face is lying, and Alexis doesn't call her on it. I am
I
so
know.
glad because when Michael shows up, Johnny's like, "How did he know she was there?" In my head, I'm like, "He probably tracked her phone." But it was the first scene, right? He just pops out of nowhere. So Christina shows up at Anna's. I'm like, "No!" Like I'm just screaming, "No!" It's like,
You're
girl, I
right.
am trying to support you. I like your character, but this. Keep your mouth shut. Why are you whining and telling everybody I can't do nothing? Sometimes nothing is the best option. And
Thank
unfortunately,
you.
she came to that conclusion at the coffee shop with Michael. Like it sucks and it's harsh, but yeah, nothing. Doing nothing, like Molly had kind of suggested, doing nothing, staying home, not going to talk to Ava. Again, not her fault that she tripped over Kate's bag. Why haven't we sued him for murder?
Thank you.
Ugh. Anyways, so she goes to Anna, and once again, like she's had multiple talks. And no matter how many ways everyone has explained it to her, like you saying this is not going to get Alexis out of trouble. You're just going to be in trouble with her.
Exactly.
I just I can't wrap my head around that. So again, I was so happy when Michael went to pull her out of there. Um, there was a part of me in those moments. Do you know what I was thinking?
What?
You remember how like Nina one day wakes up from a coma and then spends the afternoon with Maxie and becomes an editor in chief.
Yes.
So I kept thinking to myself, is that what's going to happen to Kristina, right? She's going to be a bobo head one day, and then in one afternoon, she's going to go through this makeover and suddenly understand silence and the mob rules.
Ooh, I kind of love it. A mob makeover.
And one of my favorite lines was from Carly. Kristina is liable to get us all convicted of something. Like, we don't know what it is, but she's going to get us all convicted. And so, for the millionth time, like, I think that she got it right because she was with Michael. She's like, you're right. I didn't think things through. Like, I didn't think things through when I went to Ava. So, again, like Sonny was already debating turning himself in. He already kind of said that, but this, pushing it over the edge because Kristina is like a ticking time bomb.
She is, but I did like that moment when Sunny's like, "Look, you're an adult. I'm going to talk to you like an adult. This is what's going to happen." Like, yeah, she ran around after and did other silly baloney stuff, but he talked to her in not his typical Christina way. Like everybody talks to her like she's broken and 2 years old, but he's like, "Look, this is what's happening." He was very like stern and strict with her when he brought them both to the apartment to discuss what's happening. So he's trying to put her in that role of like, we are confiding in you. We are trusting you with the biggest family secret. Like, zip your lip.
But I think somebody will take that spot before Christina does.
Oh,
So
100%.
okay, so when it comes to Sonny now, like he's basically run around preparing for this confession. So we know what's expected, and we come to learn that in addition to Martin's show-stopping evidence of Carly being at Brendan's hotel room, that in addition to that, the gun turns out to be the gun everyone was looking for that no one could find. Sam didn't
Yes.
find it, the FBI didn't find it, and then somebody faked a whole bomb thing and the gun is there. And at first when she was talking to Robert, don't you think you could lead with common sense? Like you could have led with the fact that the gun was like registered as Sonny's weapon, which would make sense that it was the gun that Alexis threw. Instead, she's like, we found a 9mm. It fits the description. We found it in the water. Now you literally told this woman, you can't go free until we find the gun that we can't find. And then what happens when you find the gun? How are you going to know that that's the gun? And then they have a conversation
Cannot.
about like, we know Sonny did this, but we know there's no gun. It's like, melted or destroyed, whatever. There's not going to be a trace of the weapon. So now we have to build a case on no weapon, and they're just not going to do that. He's like, but that didn't stop them with Alexis. They're like, yes, none of it makes sense. So like not having a gun means like, okay, well, we can't convict Sonny, but not having a gun means we can convict Alexis.
It breaks my brain, honestly.
Oh man, could you imagine studying the law in Port Charles? So now we know this, and the worst part is Robert tells her about Diane's meeting. So now they know that he has a reason to confess, even though he doesn't need to confess. So now you're like,
Yes.
crap, I hope somebody gets this message. Turns out Dex says a little something about it.
Yes.
But I guess for me, I thought it was actually going to end with Alexis. So when Sonny went to her, we knew that Martin said you should be out like later today. Like I feel like I've done it. It could be that Alexis has like zero faith in Martin, which she's not been shy about. But I just thought that when Sonny told her what he would do, and did you notice how clever Sonny was? Everyone that he told that he would confess, he never
Hmm.
actually confessed to killing Kate. The only person he confessed to killing Kate was directly to Kristina.
Yes.
But when he talked to like Alexis, he never said, I killed Kate. He says, I will just go talk with them.
Yes,
I will make sure
absolutely.
no one else pays for this. So he was very careful with how that went. And I was watching her and I thought, is this what Alexis needs? She needs to know that like Sonny would do this. And then therefore she would stop him and say, let's see what Martin can do. Like, wait a day.
Yeah.
But then she didn't. She was like, thanks. And she
Did
let him go.
the part that was confusing too was asking if he was doing it just a little bit for her.
Exactly.
I was
Like
like,
I was
what
like,
is
I
happening?
because it looked like they bonded. And I don't know if this is the whole thing where a lot of people, was like, I'm in love with Sonny. Sonny's the best guy. And then they switched and were like, oh my gosh, Sonny's a mobster. Like it was really weird how everybody did that. But it makes me wonder, like all of the more law enforcement ish people, like Alexis and Anne and all that, is this about a caricature of Sonny? Like is Alexis so firm on principle that it's like I could tell him that Martin thinks he has a good shot of getting me off, like even today. Should I let him know? Or do I go on principle and be like proud that Sonny's doing the right thing?
But I also like the way she broke down what was going to happen. She's like, wait, so you're going to just like let all this take you down? Like you've, you know, gotten out of certain situations. You've done a bunch of things all your life. And like now you're just going to like lay it all out. And she actually asked, what's going to happen with basically everybody else in the mob?
Yeah.
Like, is
He's
that
gonna
jacking going to
die.
happen? Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna die in jail. Like that was the whole point. Like he's literally
Yes.
giving up his life for you. And you're right. All everything he's been hiding all this years, it ends here. That's why I thought she was gonna say something because that's a big
Right?
deal. Yes, he did do it, and yes, it would be the right thing to confess, like on paper. But that's the point. What looks like the right thing doesn't feel like it, right? It is the right thing, but everybody's feeling strange. It makes
Be-
sense. You murdered someone, so you go to jail for it. But then it's
yes.
like but he did do this. He did relentlessly go after Kristina. And Alexis said it herself. And he would have taken down Dante and he would have taken down
Yes.
and Michael and every other kid.
Yes.
So this was a lot. Like it's really like very, very complex. Um, so there's that. So like Alexis knows and she didn't put a stop to it because I really felt like it was clear when Martin said, like, I think you'll get out of here later. And I just thought, why would you not share that information?
I agree. It's very messed up.
And then Kristina contacts Dante, even dumber. You have one brother that you can speak openly with, and then you call the other brother who's a cop. And before he leaves to see her, he informs Dex that he's going on leave. And I'm thinking, wow, interesting timing you're going on leave, right when all this stuff is about
Exactly.
to go down with Sonny. And even when Dante, okay, so then when Dante was talking to Kristina, and she says, "Oh, I guess by now you're realizing I haven't really told you everything." And I'm like, "You're telling him everything now. Like you're telling him that his dad did it. Like what's the matter with you? Like
Exactly.
you're
Oh
you're
my
saying a lot."
gosh.
Like it was so bizarre to
Yeah.
me. And then when Dante puts two and two together, once talking to Kristina and then talks to Cody.
It's so
So
cute.
I thought it was hilarious. He's like, "Stop using names." Like his child is he's right. Cop, civilian. And then he does it again. You know what I wished Cody would have done? If I were Cody,
What?
I would have said this. Given that, like, he literally had those scenes with Brad where he kind of recaps him and Mac's relationship,
Hmm.
and he just had his whole experience with his dad. If I were Cody, I would have said, "Look, I'm going to do the thing you want to do but can't. Bye. Where's your dad?" Like I
Yes.
would have seen Cody doing that, and I would have been like, "I know who you are, Dante. I know you believe in your like in being a cop, so let me do it." But you know what I think now? I
What?
liked what Cody did. He didn't take it upon himself, but he confronted him. At the end of your life, like especially with Lulu being in the coma, are you
Yes.
telling me that like your job is going to come before like you're sitting there all oh my god your integrity it's like you understand that the PCPD is engaging in this underhanded thing in order to get Sonny, like they're manipulating the emotion that after all these years they know that he's never had a motivation to come forward but he does now. Like did you notice that like the cops are tricking Sonny
Yeah.
but like Dante's caught in this line, and so we saw the decision he made, thankfully.
I'm just wondering what he's gonna say. Like, there's an emergency. Like, it was just the timing and just like their
I
facial
know.
expression was like, how is he gonna get him to? How is he gonna take him out of there? How is Anna not gonna stop him? Like, what's gonna happen?
Well, I think Dante's forceful enough. If he needs to talk to his dad, he could lie and say it's
Yeah.
about Lulu, but like Anna's gonna be upset because she's gonna lose one of hers, right? And
Yes.
she like again, she wants to be the cool cop. She wants to take Sunny down and she wants Sunny to thank her for it.
Exactly.
Like I was surprised she got through talking to Carly without crying. There was so many like tears in
You're
her
so
eyes, and I'm like,
close.
get it together. Like Carly is the one who's facing prison time, and she's looking at you and handling this conversation like it's breathing.
She's a pro.
But I like that because it forced Dante to confront this black and white world he's been living in. Are you actually comfortable? Like being faced with mortality, with losing someone you love. Are you comfortable living your life knowing that you put like your job and your integrity first and not your family, and kind of fighting tooth and nail and doing everything you can for them. Like, what's the point of your life if you can't? And he's being put in a situation where how do you ignore that? It's so loud, right? I would do anything for my
Exactly.
family to survive, and the family would be really taken down by this whole thing. So it's going to be huge. And I think his leave is the end. It's the end of the line with his life at the PCPD. Like, he's definitely crossing over for sure.
Totally. I can't wait to see more.
I mean, look at how Sonny reacted to Michael, right? When he covered up a murder. He's like, I love you, son. Like, you're in. Like, you're
You're
in is
number
my son.
one.
So imagine now if Dante were to do that. Dante finally crossed that line. And the thing is, this was not a line that Sonny forced or pushed. He had no idea. So this is
Exactly.
so like, do you have any idea what that's gonna mean to Sonny?
The world.
Yeah. Yeah,
He's
he's gonna get
gonna.
to be his son. Isn't that amazing? But
It's
yeah, he's gonna
so
be but he's gonna be in, right? Like how you pointed out that Kristina was let in on some major family secrets. Well, so was Dante. And now he's gonna have to
exactly.
choose. Like, do you really want to be part of a connected family and be in this thing that you've been on the outside for so long, right? Like he's been on the outside. He's questioned Carly, he's questioned Michael, and he's always been a little on the outs. Do you know how sad Anna's gonna be when she
Oh,
sees like
so
Dante being
sad.
like in with his own family?
She's gonna cry.
Oh my gosh, her like face is gonna be
So
pushed
much.
against that invisible glass as she stalks that family.
Right?
Let me in. Kind of like Ava. She saw Lucas. She's like, remember me? We're related. You and I, family for life. It was just so good. It
It
was
was
so
so
good.
good, but then the minute she could have a conversation with him, it just went awry. But I like that. I like what you said, like don't judge somebody on their worst moment in time kind of thing. And to give them a chance because Ava's like kind of like she has so much love to give. Like look at her with Trina. Yes, she makes missteps and really back steps and makes, a couple steps forward. But she really wants to create a sense of family. And I forgot, that they share Lucas, like Carly and
Yeah.
her, and no matter what, I mean, they have Avery, they're always tied together. And I think it would be so cute to have this like Lucas going for drinks with Ava and then the next night going for drinks with Carly. Like it makes like a cute little situation there that I like.
I just think it was so comedic how it happened and awkward, like
Yeah.
seeing this, the comment about like, but I did send condolences. And Carly's saying, did you read the note after Trina wrote it? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so
Poor.
bad. And then she tried to smooth things over and make it less awkward by bringing up Avery. Kids usually help. And then when he said, yeah, Carly sends me pictures of her all the time. And I guess I never realized that, right? That like Avery and Lucas are like related. And
Yes.
so the funny thing is, like Ava has found herself in this place where she wants family. And it's been her downfall since she threw in with Sonny. And it's so sad because I'm like, remember last Christmas? Remember when you
I
had a family? Remember
know.
when you and Carly were pretty much like you were getting along and handling the family together? You were getting along with Jocelyn. You made headway. Like you were advising Jocelyn
Yeah.
on her love life, meeting up
Yes.
with Michael to trade with like Avery. Like she had a good thing going until Sonny came back. Like literally, you spent Christmas with Carly and Drew when they were together and you were there. You had a family. It was like the beginning of, I think, what she really wanted. And now she's kind of starting from scratch again. But I did like how
Yeah.
they left off. And I did love her trying exactly what you said, like drawing on the gray and pointing out, like, Julian was insecure. Like, did it ever occur to you that he acted out because he did not feel good enough? It's not an excuse. She was just trying
Yeah.
to explain that he was more than that. And I mean, I just came off of reading a really good book, Evelyn Hugo. What's the
Okay.
and I think and that whole book is a lot about shades of gray. So it's like I find having just come off reading that book and watching this week and watching the whole Sunny confession is just there's definitely a lot of gray. And I think it's been pretty cool to watch.
I agree. I'm very much enjoying it. So, okay. That being said, there's one quick thing before we do stars and lines.
Yep.
Brett is like super good at his job, and he found that Portia thing in like 3 minutes.
Oh my gosh, I can't with her. I'm like, did she just ask Elizabeth about Brad's attitude? Your attitude sucks. And it's like she got all on him because he hugged Cody. I was like, you're awful. And honestly, as soon as Brad walked away with that folder, I'm like, get that leverage. Shut her
Yes.
down. Like, part of me hopes that Brad just turns it into Elizabeth or turns it into Terry directly and is there when like Portia gets called in and he walks out. I would rather not have it be dragged on. I hope he just turns her in, to be honest.
Oh, me too. Like I need some like positive light to be on him. Oh my God. And the scene with like Lucky and Aiden, that was like beautiful.
Oh my gosh, how can we forget that? Okay, so literally mind blown. So like watching him with Aiden, I said he was out of deadbeat dad territory, but then like later on, I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know about this, Lucky. I guess it was a moment. So I love how Elizabeth was nervous, get like saying, "Hey, let's take this reunion in a private space." And Aiden coming out to Lucky because he's never formally come out, right? It was always
Yes.
something kind of talked about. And I remember Liz being so proud when he like told Finn about his crush. And my favorite, I want to steal that because when she told Terry about everything,
Yes.
about Aiden, she's like, yeah, of course I know. He talked to me. And she's like, spaces don't come safer than me. And I love that. I thought it was like such a sweet line.
Aw.
But like,
Yes.
and like Lucky, I didn't know where this was going because he told him like, hold on, back up, let me like get a minute so I can respond to you. And I loved how he spoke to him because for all of his failings, being able to say like you can't put into words how much you love your son, and like I'm sure for Lucky, what he when he was basically saying like it sucks that you feel that you couldn't say, like it's horrible because
Yeah.
I don't want you to have that feeling. But what was such a mind f for me was when they were sitting at that table and they start talking about Luke. Do you know how bizarre that is? To like
Right?
to have Lucky be like, yeah, you're like your grandfather. And then Aiden, I love how real that was because Aiden doesn't know, right? He doesn't
Yeah.
Lucky's not been around. He knows he's a Spencer. And of course he knows he's a legend. So it's interesting. How do you grow up knowing your family is this sort of famous? And so then when he assumed, oh, like we're the same because of our business sense, it's like, no, he cooked, he baked. And it was just
Yeah.
to me, I think
Aw.
I'm just like, I can't believe this. Like I watched when Lucky was a kid, and now I'm watching Lucky's kid, and now it's like, on the show, Lucas passed on, and it's just crazy, crazy that he's Grandpa
So
Luke. Like it's
insane.
so like I just couldn't even wrap my mind around this. It was too much for me.
It was. I love it. So I'm going to start with stars for that scene with Lucky and Eden. It was just so powerful and so filled with love. It was great to watch.
I'm gonna give a gold star for Mac for interrupting Holly and getting her out of there. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you.
Gold star to Carly Brennan. Joss and Lucky scenes, those are really good. I kind of noticed that like they put I mean, I know that Joss is like a Spencer and they are reconnected with his family. He had that moment with Rocco. That was hilarious, I have to say. Gold star
Yes.
moment of Dante can't read a room. Like he walked in all excited and Rocco's like devastated. But just noticing that Lucky was they put him with the younger generation, right? He connected
Yes.
with Aiden, which is normal, but like Rocco and like Joss. So I just thought that was interesting how they were setting that up, but I definitely loved all of those scenes. A shout out to a Natalia Sunny moment where she
Oh,
said
yes.
she was pointing at his connections, saying
Mm-hmm.
she knew people who have them and she should know better. So ex Mrs. Sidwell.
Oh, yes.
Diane Jason moments. I'm gonna give a gold star to Lucas. I think I'm 80% over it.
I'm getting there. I'm going to give a star to Carly's face when Holly asked her to speak to her man.
Oh yeah, she's like, "Who?" Oh my gosh, at least she didn't say Brennan because that woman was like stalking her. She's like, "Hi, did you need something?" It's like you're a lurker, lurker.
Right? Oh
Oh,
my gosh. And another more of like a favorite line than a star, but when actually yes, I'm gonna give it a star to Alexis and her cool cat attitude towards prison and that Heather gives her prison credibility. You
oh yeah,
know.
that Heather gives her prison cred. Yes. Oh,
Love it.
I have
Yes.
to give a star to Lucas's line because he handled his conversation with Ava well because they're trying to have a real conversation, but she kept trying to make excuses. And he just turned around and told her that like Sonny's not the best moral barometer, like
Yeah.
justifying your behavior that way. But I like that he said I would never forgo and forsake my like Avery and Avery's mom. So I do like how they left that.
It was so cute. I can't wait to keep watching and talking about it. But
But not next
remember,
week.
next
Not
week,
not
that's what I
next week,
said. But
guys.
remember, not next week. But I'll probably be in the comments and in our little um chat thingy, and we'll figure it out.
Have a great weekend. That's your line, right? So you could.
Yes. I was stealing my lines. Oh my gosh, everybody. That's a wrap. Have a fantastic weekend.
Bye.
Bye.